He accidentally shot his wife. I'm gonna go to prison, might as well take them with me. Grabbed a gun, grabbed more bullets, entered the house, killed them. I was sitting in a little bouncer chair, and my father was diagonally in front of me, and my mother was laying in the den diagonally behind me. So we were kind of making a triangle. And he was like, when her parents were murdered, I carried her out the house. And I was just like, did not have any idea that it was gonna have 3 million views and then go to Twitter, have articles written about me.
Some of the people out there online have said this is such a bad idea, and the criticisms about you wanting to do this because you want to have a relationship.
He was like my big bad wolf growing up. He was like the embodiment of evil. If I humanize him, that will help me forgive him. And some people are like, oh, I bet she's gonna marry him within a year.
There was a woman whose parents got killed in the 90s, and then that guy came out of jail. This woman had the same approach about being forgiving, and they built this relationship together, and then he ended up killing her. Today's podcast guest is a woman whose parents were killed in a triple homicide when she was an infant, her wanting to have a relationship with the killer 30 years later, and her life as a mortician.
As a hillbilly in a trailer. I mean, right now, we just finished a play that we did. Last night was the last night for the play, and we got flowers, and I was like, I have no vase to put it in. And I cut up an empty Mountain Dew 2-liter and made a vase. And it's sitting on my stove.
Can I see it?
Of course. Yeah. It's redneck ingenuity. There's my tea. Just, it's beautiful.
Actually looks pretty good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as far as two vases go, sure.
I heard that you are into acting. Were you the lead in that play?
I was.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you. It was the first time I've been a lead in a play since high school. So.
Yeah. What was your role?
I played April Hart. She was a very Southern woman from down in Alabama, and she was raised Southern Baptist, so she was really religious. And the owner of the theater company actually wrote that show. So it was basically the show, like the moral of the show was don't judge a book by its cover because you don't know what people are going through. It was fun. It was really fun. It was a comedy, and I really enjoyed it. So.
And you were saying you did theater in high school. Has this always been something part of your life, Ariel?
Oh yeah, I've been doing theater since I was about 8 years, like 9 years old, I think.
Yeah.
Third generation theater, because my great granddaddy did it, and then my grandma did it. I'm doing it, and now my kids do it.
That's cool.
And then my little sister also does theater at a different theater company. So yeah, we're a theater family. We love it.
Yeah, I noticed that you had a video on TikTok with your daughter, and she like fell down, and then she was like, "Help me! I can't get up from here," or something like that. And I was like, "Oh wow, that's so expressive for like a 7 or a 9-year-old to have that sort of expression. It's not common to be that articulate and emotionally expressive, you know."
Yeah, she started theater last year, and now, just from last June, she's in her 4th show right now.
Wow.
So we're just rolling. We haven't gotten off stage for a whole year. It's just we finish one play, go right to the next. So, like she's doing another play right now. She's doing Shrek, the musical Junior, which is like a kids Shrek show, and that will air in, what is that, late July. So yeah, it's a lot of theater.
Cool. I didn't know that they had a Shrek play. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. I only started doing acting lessons recently because I'm a communications coach. So I teach people communication skills, speaking skills, that sort of stuff. And I started doing acting like maybe 5 weeks ago. So I'm just kind of getting into the art, you know, but it's interesting, right? Like for me, like learning how some people, when they do acting, they look at a specific emotion and they'll copy that, or they'll copy the scene. And then other people, they feel the emotion, then they act it out. What do you feel is like the best sort of way when you're doing acting, Ariel?
So I try to more method act. Like I'm like, okay, when I get when I get a character, I'm like, all right, well, how would she act? Well, how would she feel? You know,
Yeah.
and first I start like with what I just did. You know, at first I was like, okay, she's from Alabama, so I'm from Virginia, and I do have a
Mhm.
Southern accent, but I was like, all right, I gotta get more into an Alabama accent, you know, and so I was like, all
Yeah.
right, I'm reading the script, and I'm going, okay, well, I was supposed to get hysterical, and I did, and it's just more making like looking at the character but trying to make it my own as well.
Mm.
And it's so fun. It really is. I had a
Mm.
whole bunch of fun with that character.
Yeah,
And it was our
it's
10th anniversary show. So the first time this theater opened, that's the show they did. Since it's 10th anniversary, we redid it. I wasn't there for the first one. I was only I think I just got out of high school. So it was fun. I just like looking at the character and then trying to make it my own, but
yeah.
still be in that realm.
Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of like it's still you, but it's like a version of what you're kind of trying to fit into. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also yeah, I try to bring myself into it, but then with acting, like the last play I was in was The Sound of Music and I was a nun. That's not me. Um so that was
I
more
like your
just
honesty.
yeah, so that was more just trying to be a nun, but I
Yeah.
did like bring my own little, you know, sassy
Yeah.
little facial expressions to it, but that's it because I'm covered head to toe.
Well, that's the
It,
thing. You literally just got this if
I know it
to
was
the
just
acting in, right?
this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it was a whole bunch of singing because that's what the
Yeah.
nuns did. They sang.
Well, it's interesting. Like even your name, Ariel. Like when I first saw your name pop up and I saw you, first thing I think of is Little Mermaid. You know, you
Yeah,
literally look like Ariel from Little Mermaid.
yeah. My kids tell their friends that I'm actually Ariel from The Little Mermaid, and we just go with it. We just go with it.
So is that like? Did you ever find out why your parents called you Ariel?
No, I was born bald, so I didn't have red hair. So
Yeah,
I'm guessing she just liked the name. And then my whole
yeah.
life was Little Mermaid. I mean, this is my cup right now.
Up there.
I bought that with my own money. And then I have Little Mermaid coffee cups. I have a
Yeah,
Little Mermaid wax melter. My whole life's been Little Mermaid.
yeah. What year did
Yeah.
that movie come out?
I think it
90.
was like 80. I thought it was 89, 1989.
No, it's the 90s for sure, right?
Are you sure? I don't know, but it came out before I was born. Because I was born in
Okay.
95.
Okay. I think
Yeah.
Aladdin was out then, and a couple of those other sort of
Yeah.
Disney movies, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe
So
that's why.
I'm glad because she named my sister Sandra, and I'm real glad I didn't get a name like that. I feel like that was a bad name choice, but I
Yeah.
didn't get that. So I got a really 90s name, so it's okay.
You got a definitely a 90s name. The
Yeah.
90s girls like want to be named, you know what I mean? Like all
Yeah.
the you notice like girls around that sort of age want to be like specific princesses from Disney, like
Hmm.
like Snow White or what are the other ones? I
Sleeping
can't think.
Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty, Belle from Sleeping Beauty, all that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But I
yeah,
got Ariel. I haven't met a lot of Ariels, so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
unique. At
This,
least I'm not like a Heather or a Jessica or an
yeah.
Emily.
Yep. It's a good choice. So how I found you was I was on Twitter and I saw a video of you and you're opening up this letter. And
Hmm.
basically the caption was, I'm getting a letter from the person that killed my parents. It's been over 30 years. I've been waiting for this. And then
Hmm.
you opened it up and you read through it. And then at the end of the letter, you were so happy. It's like you've had this
Hmm.
release, this emotional release, this
Yeah.
reaction. And for someone watching that who doesn't know the situation, my initial response was like, why is she so happy? Like, oh, maybe
Hmm.
she's trying to get some closure or, she's gone through this different process. And then I was just kind of like shocked. And then I saw the next video, I was kind of explaining the situation. So I guess what I wanted to start off by asking you, Ariel, is can you just sort of share your, if you don't mind, if could you just share exactly kind of what happened leading up to that moment and everything that you can kind of share about that?
So I've been in therapy for I think 4 years.
Uh-huh.
And with my therapist, I've been talking through this stuff because,
Yeah.
I grew up knowing that they were dead. And
Mm.
I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I've wished some awful things on that man.
Mm.
because I've been through the anger of it and being mad at him and just hating him and just wishing just terrible things on him. Even like I've wished small inconveniences on him too. Like I was like, oh, I just hope he stubs his toe every night, like just, or I hope he dies, or So,
Hmm.
I talked to my therapist about that, and I was like,
Hmm.
I don't want to be mad anymore. And she
Hmm.
was like, well, part of not being mad anymore is, forgiving somebody. And I was like,
Hmm.
you're right. So we've been working through it and working through it and talking about it and more trying to humanize him, and I watch different episodes of people like forgiving their family's murderer and how that helped them. And
Hmm.
I a couple years ago I had applied to meet him in person in prison and I got
Hmm.
accepted, but his um visitation days didn't line up with my work schedule, so I never got to.
Hmm.
And then COVID hit, and
Hmm.
a couple months ago I was like, you know what, we're just going to reapply and we're going to do this. And I only got video visitations. And the only way you can set up a video visitation with the inmate is if you talk to the inmate. So I sat on that
Ah.
for a couple months. And then one
Ah.
day I went, you know what? We're just going to do it. And I just sent a letter, like, didn't even really think about it. I just typed up a little thing and I mailed it out that day. And the day I got the letter, it was like 2 weeks afterwards. And I was having a bad day. And I also, after I mailed out that letter, I had so much going through my brain, like, oh, this is dumb. He probably won't even like write me back.
Hmm.
What if he just threw it in the trash? Like, what was I thinking? I was going through all that. And I had just given up on thinking I was going to get a letter back.
Hmm.
And then I go to the mailbox, just like, "Oh, let's get all the bills out the mailbox." And it's there.
Hmm.
So I was like, I was shocked, but then again, I was touched that he actually took the time to write me back, and then I was excited. Like I had so many different emotions going on at the same time.
Hmm.
And I know like a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, she's happy. Why are you acting like Taylor Swift wrote you?" And I'm like, this has been like a big thing for me,
Yeah.
because I don't even know what he looks like.
Hmm.
I don't know what he sounds like.
Hmm.
Nothing. I have no idea. And all
Hmm.
my other family does. So
Yeah.
it's always been like, well, who is he?
Hmm.
And the fact that he actually wrote me back made me
Hmm.
really happy
Hmm.
because I was like, now I get to know.
Yeah. I think based on my sort of experience. So, as you might not know this, Ariel, but I was a social worker back in Australia,
Hmm.
and I worked in social work and child protection. I think you call it DHS or CPS in America.
Yeah,
Yeah.
CPS.
Yeah. So I worked in foster care and I worked in child protection and working with children and victims of trauma. I used to work in these
Hmm.
refuges and I've seen everything. I've seen kids try to kill themselves. I had kids try to attack me with knives. I've had
Goodness.
kids on drugs and, with horrible stories, sexual abuse, physical abuse, all
Hmm.
these different things that are quite horrible. So I've been around a lot of trauma in my life and also suffered some trauma myself growing up, so I understand those elements and aspects to that. And one of the things for me that was a real breakthrough when dealing with people that have hurt me in the past that I came to was actually confronting them to discuss with them basically what happened. And
Yeah.
it wasn't to bring a gripe towards them, but was to express myself. And when I expressed how I felt and everything that I went through, then I was able to forgive them, move on. And for me, exactly kind of what your therapist is saying, to kind of go for that process can
Hmm.
be really, really beneficial because you're closing a door on something, you're closing a chapter so you can move
Yeah.
forward and grow from that. So I think what you're doing is incredibly brave, but it must have taken like a lot of time and consideration in your mind, and you must have just been playing over and over in your mind all the different possible things that can happen. Is that right?
Yeah. And then, those 2 weeks waiting for that letter, I was like, oh, what if I said something wrong?
Mm,
Or like,
mm,
what if he takes this the wrong way? Because I put in the letter, I have nothing but good intentions. But I was like, what if he doesn't even believe me? What if he sees my, because I put in there my maiden name. I was like, what if that just throws him off?
Mm,
Then, like, he sees, my maiden name, which is my father's, last name. I was like, what if he's like, nope.
mm,
So reading it, and him saying, I'll do whatever I can to help you. I have good intentions. I was like, oh wow.
mm.
Um, but yeah, and it's a process, and I know I keep having mixed feelings because sometimes I want to be like, talk to him about it, and just be like, this is the hurt you've caused. But then again, I've told him we don't have to talk about that day
Yeah.
because I've looked at the case files. I've seen the crime scene photos, I've seen the autopsy reports, I've read some of the court documents. So I'm like, we don't have to talk about that day
Mm,
because I know the facts of it.
mhm,
I don't need a why. I know a lot of people are like, you're going to ask why, and I'm like, no, that doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't bring them back. It's
yeah,
just more, I just want to form my own opinion about him
yeah.
and then just be like, you know what, I forgive you, and this is okay. I mean, what you did is not okay, but we're okay now,
Mhm,
and that's where I
mhm,
am with it.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to ask you about as well. Like, you were saying that you not knowing the reason why it doesn't mean anything to you.
Yeah,
Why do you feel that way, Ariel?
because it doesn't bring them back, and then
Mm,
I don't know if I would harp on the why.
yeah.
If I would leave that and just be like, that's why, like, that's silly.
Okay.
Because, I mean, people get murdered over, like, pennies,
Mm,
and that's silly. And I don't want it to be like, well, I was mad that day. That's it? You were mad that day? Like, I get mad, like, and I don't kill people. So I
okay.
feel like I would harp
Okay.
on the why and be like, and I feel like it just wouldn't sit right with me. And then I feel like I'd have to start back all over.
Okay, so that makes more sense now. So essentially, what I'm hearing, what you're saying is that if you get the why or you know the reason why, it's something that you could obsess over and it could actually
Yeah.
make it kind of worse rather than giving you closure.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, that makes sense now. So that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you because I guess from the thing is, we all haven't lived your experience, Ariel. Like people haven't gone through that. They don't know what that feels like. I don't know what it feels like. I don't understand it. I can only imagine your situation, right? So,
Yeah.
your whole life, it's one of those things that you have to kind of put together as to know what this situation means to you and what this
Hmm.
person is to you as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just didn't want to harp on it. I just kind of
Mm,
wanted to move on.
mm. Yeah, I
And
agree.
the thing is, people go, "Oh, you want to befriend him?" And I know in one video, I was like, "Yeah, if we could have some type of relationship." But I'm not saying we're gonna be buddy buddy. You know, maybe right occasionally.
Hmm.
Not right every day. It's more like I want to get to know you. I want us to, come to a common ground. I forgive you, and then maybe I'll send you a letter just see how you're doing sometimes.
Hmm.
But I'm not trying to be his best friend.
Are you really religious, Ariel?
No, I'm an atheist.
Okay. Okay.
I was born, I was raised Southern Baptist, but no, I'm
Yeah.
an atheist.
What is a Southern Baptist? I don't know what that means.
Oh my goodness, how do I even explain a Southern Baptist? I mean, I guess you got your regular Baptist, and you got, Southern Baptists. They say they're more, devout Christians. Clutch your
I see.
pearls. Oh,
I
bless her
see.
heart.
Mm,
We, on Sundays we probably have like a reception afterwards, and everybody's gonna eat. But it's really like live by the Bible. But we might take some things out. We don't really listen to like the Old Testament. Oh, they say Sodom and Gomorrah, but it also says it's a sin to like wear dyed cloths. But we ain't looking at that. So it's just
okay.
like that.
So it's
Southern
like a
Baptist
strict
also.
strict Christian or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, because you know about the Pope, right? The previous Pope, Pope John Paul.
yeah.
Yeah. So in 1982, there was a guy that shot him and tried to kill him,
Hmm.
and then what the Pope did was he actually went and visited him in jail, and it was actually like a big public thing, and he was living in a religious kind
Hmm.
of reliving in the religious tenets of like Jesus to, forgive the person that hurts you.
Yeah,
So he went out to the prison and then he met the guy and they spoke for 20 minutes. It was like a big public thing. And then he apologized and he forgave him for what happened. So it's kind of similar in like not the religious aspect, but actually going to that sort of person is kind of similar parable I see in that sort of way,
Yeah,
Ariel. You know?
and I think he sounded genuine and remorseful to me. So I'm
Mm,
sure when I talk to him, he will probably be like, I'm sorry, but I'm definitely going to be like, this is the pain you caused, and this is the pain that I saw, and, you know, because this one act changed the entire trajectory of my life.
yeah.
My life could have gone a totally different way with my parents. And
Mm,
then this happened, and it just, went a totally different direction that I don't think I would have wanted. And so I
hmm
want to be like, this is what you did. You think, you know, you didn't just kill them, like you changed everything.
mm,
And this is the pain I've had. And then, I just want him to listen for a little bit and then be like, oh, okay, well, I am genuinely sorry. So, and
mm.
then we can move on.
Yeah, I think that's the right approach. You got to make sure the person actually understands like exactly
Hmm.
what their actions they probably did. In a split second. Who knows the why, right? Like you said, well, their
Yeah.
actions they did in that split moment changed so many different things, and so many different lives get
Yeah.
affected from one thing. So it's really important that he kind of understands that aspect of your life and everything
Yeah.
else. Ariel.
Like his decision was kind of like a butterfly effect. And it didn't, like, he killed 3 people that night.
Mm,
So it didn't just change my life, it changed my siblings' lives, it changed my cousin's life,
hmm
changed my other brother who, he's actually my nephew. We were raised as siblings. He never got to meet his grandma
hmm
either. So I mean it just kind of reverberated out.
Yeah.
Kind of like an atomic bomb on our family. So
Yeah. No, no, I can't imagine, but I can see exactly what would happen, if
yeah.
something like that happens. Can we just start, just to, if you don't mind, can you explain, like, how does he relate to your family and yourself? It sounds very
Yeah.
complicated, and I wasn't exactly sure.
It is.
Yeah.
I feel like I need like a whiteboard so I can just start drawing and lines
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
Um, but my mother, she was married a first time, and her husband had a sister who was married to the killer.
So say it one more time.
Okay, so my mother's first husband, um,
Yes.
his sister was married to the killer, so he was
Okay.
technically my mom's brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law. Okay. Your mom's
Which,
brother-in-law at the time of being married.
yes,
Got it.
and so that would be my older sibling's uncle by marriage.
Got it.
Then my mom's first husband died. I feel like it was a heart attack. I want to say it was like a heart attack. And then she got with my dad, who was 10 years younger than her. Then they had me. And so, yeah, it's like uncle brother in law situation.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Mhm.
And then, if you don't mind, can you explain what actually happened?
Yeah, so from what I've seen in the court documents,
hmm
um, and the case files, the court documents, the crime scene photos, he he accidentally shot his wife. And then I guess I, my thinking is he went, oh crap, I killed her. I'm gonna go to prison. Might as well take them with me. I don't know though, but he accidentally shot his wife. Grabbed a gun
Accidentally.
accidentally.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Got
My
it.
opinion is
Yep.
accidentally. He said
hmm
he accidentally.
Mm.
Um, Grabbed a gun, grabbed more bullets, left his house, just walked down, 3 houses down to my
hmm
house.
hmm
Um, Entered the house, killed them, walked out the house, walked around my granny's property, dumped the pistol at the railroad tracks, walked all the way back to his back door, and then the police were there and he went, I didn't mean to. So
Hmm.
that's what he did.
Yeah. And this was on your father's birthday, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, he was turning 32.
Wow. And then the week before, there was some sort of issue where he said something to your dad or something?
Yeah, so from what I've read in the court documents, there was a Halloween party um across the street from our house. Our family had a garage and they used to do a Halloween party, and everybody was
Mm.
there, and they heard him say to my father, "Your days are numbered."
Okay.
And one thing that I've read is that, and from my mother's diary, my father, when he was drinking, he always liked to fight. He'd
Ah.
get kind of riled up, and apparently, the killer also was the same way. So I think they were having some words exchanged, and then he was like, "Your
Mm.
days are numbered." So,
Okay. Okay. So
mhm.
this could have been the start of exactly what kind of led to it or something. You don't know.
Yeah, from what
Yeah.
I've gathered, there was a lot of animosity back and forth for years.
Mm.
So
He
it's
lived
just a
close
lot
by,
of,
right?
yeah, our family lived in the same neighborhood, and we were just houses down from each other. So he lived 3 houses down from us. So
Mm.
they saw each other all the time.
Mm. Okay. And then you were only 4 months old at the time in the
Yeah,
house.
yeah,
Yeah. And obviously, like, you've got no recollection of anything. You just
no,
been told this story really growing up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I make a cameo in the crime scene photos.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, what? I'm surprised that they wouldn't kind of try to take you away from completely
yeah.
that situation, right?
I don't know like when they took the photo.
Yeah.
Um, I just know I'm in it where they found me at, because I was sitting in a little bouncer chair, and my father was laying in the kitchen diagonally in front of me, and my mother was laying in the den diagonally behind me. So we
Mm,
were kind of making a triangle in our positions,
mm,
and they just took a picture of me right there, and I was a chubby baby, so my
mm,
face is just super red, and my eyes are all splotchy because I've been crying so much.
mm,
And they just took the photo, and then I guess they just were like, all right, and took me out.
mm. Yeah. And then I think you were saying that your auntie found you. Is that right?
Yeah, from what I've read in the case files, my great aunt came to our house to tell them what had happened to my mother's sister-in-law.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she's knocking on the door. And she can hear me crying, but she's just thinking, oh, they're changing her diaper, knocking
Mm,
on the door. No one's
mm,
coming. And, so she just walks in, calling their names so that they will know what happened. And then she finds them and runs out the house.
mm.
Just
And
leaves me
then
there,
yeah.
which I get it. It's shock, if you found two more
Yeah.
people gunned down.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't blame someone like in that sort of
Yeah, I
moment.
don't blame.
Like it's a horrific thing to see,
Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
Yeah. And then I think you were saying as well that like a fireman carried you out and then like you met that person later, is that right?
Yeah, when I was in college I was going to be a teacher. I decided no, but
Yeah.
I was in
Fair
college
enough.
getting that degree. I had a first aid class I had to do.
Yeah.
The CPR and first aid, because that was one of the requirements to get that
Mm.
degree.
Mhm.
And I wasn't married yet, so I still had my maiden name. And he was just going down the roll on the first day, and he called my name, and I raised my hand, and he just stopped and looked at me for a minute, and he was like, "I carried you out the house that night," and I knew what he was talking about. Like I immediately knew what he was talking
How
about.
did you know?
Well, I mean, what other horrific night would someone
Yeah.
carry me out of the house? I
Yeah.
hadn't been in
Yeah.
a house fire, nothing, so I immediately knew. And then he told the whole class, what he
Oh.
was talking about,
Oh.
you
Oh.
know. And he was like, when her parents were murdered, I
Oh.
carried her out the house. And I was just like, yeah. I was like, well, thank you, for doing that, for
Yeah,
taking
fair
me out that
enough.
house. But yeah, he
Mm.
was really nice. He was really nice. So
Mm. Did he say anything about like about that day or anything else to you?
no, not
Like
really.
privately?
He just
Yeah.
no, he not really. I didn't really ask him anything.
Mm.
I mean, I knew my parents were taking out the house the next day.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and he was just like, yeah, I carried you out, and we handed you off, and I was like, all right.
Mm.
And that was about it.
Isn't it a shock though that like you would see someone like that all those years later and they'd recognize the situation, you know? Like nearly
Well,
30
I
years later.
yeah, well, I'm born and raised here, and I haven't left here,
Uh-huh.
and it's a small town. You
Ah.
know, we're a small southern town, so we're gonna see people we know or who know
Mhm.
us or something. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. That makes
I
sense.
wasn't too shocked,
Mm.
but I was just like, oh, well, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gotcha. Well, look, Ariel, thanks so much for sharing that. I really appreciate you being like candid and open about that. It
Hmm.
must be kind of difficult to talk about that topic, you know?
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
I've been talking about it a lot lately, so it kind of
Yeah.
gets a
Yeah.
little. Sometimes I get a little numb to it. You know, just been
Mm.
like, oh, it's
No,
my life. You know.
yeah, you would because like that's just a coping mechanism of trauma, right? You just kind of just get
Hmm.
eventually the situation just
Like
becomes attached.
disassociate.
Yeah,
Yeah, like, yeah,
exactly.
get
Yeah.
dissociated.
Well, this is why a lot of people that have gone through trauma find a lot of solace and enjoyment in acting because it's
Hmm.
an expressive way that you can kind of be a character rather than
Yeah,
being the
and
person
not
that
be
you are, you
yourself for
know?
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's I didn't really understand that till I started doing acting classes, and then I was
Hmm.
feeling emotions as an actor, and I was like, oh, it's like real life, but I'm not that. I'm a different thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I really liked when I was a kid. You know, because
Mm.
I not me,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed it because it really helped me not think about what was going on in my life.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. You know, the psychologists now actually do play therapy where they actually do you act out a play as a character with
Oh,
kids, you know,
cool.
and yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's like it's a way of coping with trauma. And with some of the kids I used to work with that were a bit younger, we did play therapy with toys. We play with
Hmm.
toys and scenarios and situations to kind of express themselves. But what they're finding now is that actually doing getting the children to act out in a play is so helpful for them because they can relate and be a different character and express their
Hmm.
emotions. So I can see why for you, when I heard like saw you were saying that you're doing acting, I was like, okay, that makes sense. That's like the
Yeah.
really, really good coping mechanism to something you're going through growing up in the situation era. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I didn't get to do much as a kid. So
Yeah.
that
What was
was
it
like the
like?
well, I don't want to talk about my parents because
Okay.
they tried their best
Yeah.
to give me a normal life.
Yeah.
Um, would I have gone about it that way? I'm not sure. But then again, I
Mm,
wasn't the adult in the situation.
mm,
Um, when I found when I was told what happened, my perspective on them kind of changed
oh.
because then I knew I wasn't their kid. Um,
Ah.
and then I started to I don't want to say nitpick everything, but I started to be like, oh, so they're doing this for my brother, but not for me, and I started feeling less than
What?
as a
What?
kid.
Sorry to interrupt. What do you mean by doing it for your brother but not for you?
Like he did a lot of dirt bike racing, which was, I went to every dirt bike race, and they would get him dirt bikes, and we'd go to every race, and we get there early and stuff. But I wanted to do dance, and didn't get to do dance. Or when I was in high school, um, my brother got to have a car, my brother got to have a job, and I
Mm,
didn't get to. Um, and like I didn't get to go to a school sports event, no homecoming.
mm,
I did get to go to prom, but then like the senior activities, I didn't get to do that.
mm,
Even scholarship night when I was a senior, didn't get to go. I got scholarships, I wasn't even there to accept them, and I just kind of nitpicked. Well, I don't want
mm.
to say nitpick, but I just was kind of like, okay, I get I'm not your kid.
Yeah.
Um, but I did get to go to my grandma's house 1 weekend a month, and I really enjoyed that
Mm,
because that's my biological grandma on my father's side. So she spoiled me a bunch. She
mm.
spoiled me a bunch because
That's
I was the
good.
only thing left of my father, and
Mm,
we kind of had this really tight bond because we were holding on to each other so much because of the situation.
yeah.
But she spoiled me a lot. So it evened out, I guess.
Yeah. When did you find out all this?
Um, fourth grade. So apparently, I was told when I was like 5 by my grandmother. I'm guessing I forgot,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's hard at that age.
yeah.
Mm.
And then I found out again. I think I want to say like fourth, fifth grade.
Yeah, yeah.
I was told on Easter, of all
That's
holidays, to
worse.
be told on. Yeah, I got.
Yeah,
My mom
yeah.
sat me down in the bathroom in church and told me. And then I had to go to my granny's house, and we just ate lunch and had a Easter egg hunt. Like what I just learned wasn't
Whoa,
a huge deal.
whoa.
And I
But
remember standing in my granny's yard and like
mm,
all the families Easter egg hunting, and I'm looking at everybody. I have my bucket in my hand and I'm just mad.
yeah,
But I was more mad at them,
mm.
because when you're a kid, you don't know where to, you know,
Yeah,
push your anger towards.
mm,
No, I wasn't like mad at the murderer at the time. I was mad at my parents because I started, the wheels were turning. I was like, this is a lie, and I'm looking at my family like this is a sham of a family, like my older
mm,
siblings, I was taught to call them aunt and uncle. So it was like my Uncle Jamie, my Aunt Sandra. And so I was just like, just spiraling in my head, like, you're not my aunt, you're my sister, you're not my uncle, you're actually my brother, you're not my brother, you're my nephew. And then be like, I'm not even
mm,
related to you, so it was just,
mm.
I was just
Yeah,
reeling inside because everything was a lie. And then we had to go to my grandma's house too, which was my mom's mom. So I'm not even related to anybody in that family, and all my cousins, no relation. So I'm just like, what is this? Like, what's true in my life?
no,
Because I didn't know. At that point, I didn't know.
no,
So it was tough.
no.
And then I went back to school and I told my friends, I was like, hey, my parents were murdered. And they went, yeah, we know. And I was like, what do you mean you know? They were like, yeah, our parents told us.
Oh,
And I was like, when? They were like, a long time ago. And I was like, you didn't tell me? They were like, well, they told us not to because they didn't know if you knew.
mm,
And I never caught on that I had a different last name too. Like when I look back on it, like I had a different last name than everybody in my family,
mm,
except for my biological grandma
mm,
and my biological cousins. Other than that, I had a different last name, and I didn't put it together.
mm.
Yeah, so it was.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, Ariel.
Yeah,
What so was you did you say your brother raised you? Was it your brother that
yeah,
was looking after you?
yeah, my oldest half brother.
Ah, so this is your from your mum's first marriage, is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
he was
okay.
21 at the time.
Oh, I see, I see. Well, that's
So he was the oldest, and he was expecting a child. My older sister, she was
oh,
18 and in college, so she wasn't gonna take me in.
yeah.
She was a
Mm,
college kid, so he was the only one um old enough, and he's married, he's expecting his first child. So
mm.
they took me that night.
Okay. All right. So I understand now. I understand what you mean. Yeah, it would be so tough, Ariel, especially because you've got one version of reality and then you're
Yeah.
8 and you're at Easter and you're at like a big family kind of time or at church as well. And then
Hmm.
that whole view of how everyone sits in your family is completely different now.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I still try to live in that reality, that fake reality of what my life
Mm,
was. Because
mm,
after I knew, everybody was like, "Well, we're keeping it the same, except for my older brother and sister. Other than
mm,
that, we're keeping it the same." And but now that I'm an adult, like my my brother, who was raised as my brother, we call him Bubba, but
yeah.
Bubba has 4 kids, and one of my aunts likes to joke. They'd be like, "Oh, great Aunt Ariel," because that's technically what I am to his kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I cut that off every time. I'm like, no. Like, I'm Aunt Ariel. When they have kids, I'll be great Aunt Ariel. I was like, we
Yeah,
have been living
yeah,
this lie.
you'd be aunt. Yeah, it wouldn't be great aunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't make
And I was like,
sense.
we've been living this lie all my
Yeah,
life. We are not
yeah.
changing anything. I was like, because I'm not going to start calling my brother my nephew. I was like, we're not doing that. Let me live the lie that y'all taught me to live. So we don't change it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because if we did, I'd probably go insane.
So did you, like, when you got older, did you kind of like get like a better perspective with like how everyone's in the family and moving through things, Ariel? Were you like kind of like confronted people about different situations and what it was like and just getting to learn more of the story, or were you always kind of
Yeah.
stuck in between?
Some people want to talk to me about it, some don't.
Yeah.
My older sister told me her perspective of that day because she was in college. Um, and how she just felt something was off, and she was like, "I need to call my mama." Um, and that's she was in class taking a test and was like, "I need to call my mama. Something doesn't feel right," and she was dead. And then my
Oh.
youngest of my older brothers, he was actually there at our house because he was 16, so he still lived, with my parents. It's him and me. Um, and his girlfriend was there, and they had like eaten pizza, for like dinner with my parents, and spending the day with my dad. And then they went to Walmart. And while they were gone, the murders happened.
Oh, it's lucky he wasn't
So
there then.
yeah, but
Mm.
he had a lot of trauma from it. He had a lot of survivor's guilt. Like, oh, if I was there, I could have done something. And I'm like, you were
Uh,
16. I was like, you were 16. You know,
mm.
of course, the murderer walked in with a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you weren't there,
Yeah.
because then it might have been like a 5 people dead instead of just 3. Because his girlfriend was with him. So,
Oh, really? His
I
girlfriend
mean,
was there too.
yeah, and they both
Uh,
went to Walmart. And
mm.
yeah, so I was like, if y'all were there, he probably would have killed all of you and just
Yeah.
left me.
Mm.
So,
No, I think so too. It's probably better he wasn't there at all. And even if he,
yeah,
let's say that didn't happen, the trauma from seeing and experiencing that would be a lot worse than just being away from it than turning up and it's already kind of happened,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the time he got back home, the police were there. So he didn't go inside,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I've been trying to get perspectives from people.
Mm.
But like, a lot of it's a touchy subject, especially
Mm.
for one side of the family than more the other. So I just
Yeah, I
get what
can
I can when I can.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be, but like for them, how they kind of see the perspective because they live through it. But I feel like for you, it must be hard because you get bits and pieces. It's kind of like a puzzle. You got a little piece
Yeah.
here, piece
Hmm.
there, and then you're just trying to stick it together whilst also growing up and having your own identity of this is
Yeah.
my life. But then hang on a second, no, now it's this. And then you're
Yeah.
just trying to put all these pieces together to work out what's the picture, you know?
Yeah.
So I can imagine for you that would be really, really tough to kind of work out what identity is real and what things are the
Mhm.
actual truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also, I was trying to work out who they were. You
Yeah, yeah.
Because before I was told, um, I would go to my grandma's house. I called her Mama Brenda. So I go to my Mama Brenda's house, who was, she's my father's mother, and she
Mm.
had pictures of them everywhere. And I'd always be like, "Who's that pretty woman?" I go, "Who's? Oh, he's handsome." And I was young, so she didn't tell me, but I would see their faces all the time going over there. And then she would take me to the cemetery all the time. Every time she got me, she'd take me to the cemetery. Um, we'd do the flower thing, and I just thought nothing of it.
Mm.
I didn't really know we were at the cemetery. I remember there was a big statue of Jesus holding a lamb, and I would complain that, oh, gee, he had sandals on, the statue. And I was like, oh, Jesus' feet are getting cold. We got to bring him some socks. Um, that's what I thought. There's a lot of pictures of me in that Jesus statue, and I'm pointing to his feet. Um, but then after that, and I knew I was trying to just piece together who they were as
Mm.
people. you know, and it took a long time because I would get bits and pieces of just them.
Mm.
And then I would have my grandma holding them, holding my parents up on a pedestal. Um, and me, everybody was me thinking that they were perfect people. They've never done nothing wrong, and then that would make me even madder because I was like, well,
Mm.
if they were so good, why did they have to get murdered? What did they do? Because normally you're like, okay, if someone walks in your house and shoots you on your birthday, you had to do something. Um, so it took me until a couple years ago to actually find out that they were fallible in their own character.
Ah.
Because everybody just put them up on a pedestal.
Did you have that
Um,
feeling your whole life that there were these like perfect idolized versions?
yes,
Hmm.
my whole life. And I would see
Mm.
them, they took glamour shots, and all I saw was them in like their glamour shots and how
Yeah.
gorgeous they were as a couple. And, I
Yeah.
never saw another picture for a very long time except those glamour shots.
Mm.
So I just thought they were perfect. And
Mm.
I have no idea, like, I was like, I have no idea why anybody would hurt them, And then when I started reading the case files and they had photocopied my mother's diary in the case file. So I actually got to read, her own thoughts in her own handwriting. And I was like, holy crap, they're not perfect. And I remember reading them and my mom talking about her relationship struggles with my father. And I was in the courthouse just crying, feeling so bad for her
Mm.
because, like, my parents would argue. And my dad, he's 10 years younger. He's not, the best. It was kind of toxic sometimes. And I just, like, felt so bad for her. And I was like, wait, they're not perfect. Then I was like, oh,
Mm.
wait, my father liked to drink. Oh, he liked to argue when he drank. Oh, he liked to fight. Oh, my mother wasn't really excited that she was pregnant with me. And I was just like, oh, okay. So it's been a
Mm.
process
Yeah.
this whole time of not only like figuring out who I am, but figuring out who they are and kind of disentangling all of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like me writing him is just one more step.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So you didn't know until like you didn't read any case files or anything else like that till like maybe like 22, 23?
Yeah. At first, I
Wow.
didn't even know that I could. And then I was doing some Googling, and they were like, it's, case files are open to the public. So I just went right down my clerk's office. And
Mm.
they gave me 3 boxes worth of stuff. I've now consolidated it down to, I think, one box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so. And it's a whole bunch of stuff. So I always have to keep going back because I can't read everything in one day. I mean, it's binders and binders of stuff, photos, um, evidence.
So you haven't even finished going through everything.
No, it's
Wow.
so much.
Wow. I'm
I've read
surprised they
some
have that
bits.
much.
I know, I know. Well, I mean, it's a triple homicide.
Mm.
So, I've read some victim impact statements from it, but there's so many binders, there's just no way to just take a full day
Yeah.
to try
Did
to read
but
everything.
okay, so initially like when you found this and you actually were able to like go through this and see what your parents like see your parents from like their perspective, and then also
Mhm.
there's two things going on. So the first thing I see is that you're actually getting the emotional perspective and the reality of like your mom talking about like what's going on, the scenarios and
Yeah.
situations, but then you're also getting these like cold hard factual reports and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can imagine that would have been incredibly overwhelming to
Oh,
piece that
well,
all
it
together.
it definitely was at first because, you have to take what you've learned and now what you know and try to intermingle it because it's like, okay, they can be these perfect allies people, but also they have faults. It's kind of like the Greek gods, because the Greek gods were fallible. They made mistakes and they, owned up to their mistakes. And it was kind of like just meshing that together.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting perspective, right? Because if you think of a god, you think of this infallible, perfect thing. But then,
Yeah.
like you said, it's true with the Greek gods, they had these different parts of them that were
Yeah. And
human,
they
you
had
know?
feelings,
Yeah.
and they had
Yeah.
feelings and they had horrible things happen to them, even, and they were still gods. So it was like trying to find the humility in them and not just keep them up on that pedestal.
Mm.
Especially when I read that my mother was not super excited to have me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, but then again, I got it because she was in her 40s, and she had
Yeah, it's
a
rare.
yeah, and she had a 20. When she got pregnant, I think they were 20, 17, and 15. You know, you have two adults. Because by the time she had me, they were all 21, 18, 16. But like you have two adults basically, and then you have one that's going to finish high school in 2 years, and then you're an empty nester. But now you're starting all over with a baby. I was like, I get it. Like I
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
the way that my father was, she was like, I don't know if we're going to stay together, and now I have a baby. I'm going to have this baby by myself because he
Mm.
acts like a child. And I'm just like, oh, well,
And he had kids before? Your dad?
no, no.
Okay.
My father never married. I was his first. I like to say I'm his one and only.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
he got it right the first time. But then
Yeah.
again, he didn't have time to do another one, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Um, okay. So then after that process of like going through all those things, and you said you're working at the time as well, so you haven't had time to really go into it. I can imagine it would be like just really emotionally like tiring to like go through that process again and again to read everything, you know?
Yeah, and
Um,
I was a mom too.
oh really? You had kids at the point as well?
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
yeah, my
Yeah.
kids. So
Yeah.
it was just kind of like trying to process, but then I gotta be a mom. And I
Yeah.
remember the first time I read the case files, my oldest was 4 months old.
Oh, it's the same
So
age that
same
you
age
were.
as me. Yeah.
Mm.
And when I looked at the crime scene photos the first time, she looked a lot like me when I was a baby. So I could look at the
Oh.
crime scene photo and then I could look at her and be like, I couldn't imagine,
Whoa.
you know,
Yeah.
someone taking me away from her like that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, who would raise her?
Mm.
And I was trying to like go through my mind, like, who would I pick to raise her? And then
Mm.
how would her life be? Like, it was just,
Mm.
it put a lot of stuff in perspective
Mm.
from that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I haven't got children, but I can imagine from when you have your own children, all the things that we don't have growing up or we lack from our
Hmm.
parents or the love that we kind of lack, we put that into our children, all the things that
Oh, yeah, definitely.
we the life we want to live or the things that we felt neglected, and then they grow up
Yeah,
and they have certain other things that they don't feel they get from their parents as well in
yeah,
some other sort of way, right? So I
yeah,
can imagine when you had children that you must have just been thinking, okay, this is the kind of life that I want them to kind of have.
yeah. And I try to give them the world.
Yeah.
It's really, like, I didn't get to do dance, so my girls get to do dance. And, um, my theater stuff really wasn't, um, like, it wasn't super supportive, but my grandma was. So if my
Mm.
grandma took me to theater, I got to do theater. So now they want to do theater, so we're always constantly like I try to really be supportive of them 100% of the time. And I try
Mm.
not to make them feel like they're in competition of each other or less than.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. It's well, yeah, that's great. Well, that's why it's oh, hello again.
Hello, Twenty. Oh my goodness. She's showing me her outfit.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Looking good.
hey now. So yeah, I just try to be super supportive of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, we also live in a time where like now compared to like the 90s or the 80s, it's a big focus on kids and letting them express themselves, go
Yeah.
through like different phases and things they're interested in to really support that. Times have
Hmm.
changed, which is good, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just, I keep saying like I want to be the mom where they don't have to go to therapy over me. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
no, thank you.
So
You
can
take
I
one next. You're on the edge. They're Tic Tacs. Where's my water? Oh my goodness. I take so many medications for my heart now. She's like, I
yeah.
gotta take. heads. Tic
Tic
Tacs.
Tacs. That's cute.
Oh my goodness.
um, so Ariel, so I wanted to ask you. So after that sort of process, when you were getting through the case files and stuff, right? So is
Mhm.
this when you started to question, like, hey, I should try to contact the person that is responsible for this?
Yes, because I was
Mm.
reading case files and it was sometimes I get really confused about what was trying to be said. Like
Mm.
there would be like a psyche eval, and they'd be like, he's normal, and then there would be another thing. And I was like, and then his lawyer filed another thing. And I was like, I don't really know what's going on because I don't know legal jargon, and I'm getting confused. I'm like, wait, did he plead not guilty? But then did he plead guilty? And I'm like, why is there I was like, is this grand jury stuff? And I just got so confused. Um really good. And I was like, you know what, I just need to go to the source. But also I just wanted to kind of just be like, tell me why at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I also wanted to like have a one up on him, being like, I'm fine. Like at one point
Yeah.
I wanted to angrily tell him that I was fine.
Mm.
Because I thought at one point someone was like, he smirked at trial. And I was like, okay. But then it got to me and I just wanted to angrily be like, you know what? You thought you ruined our lives. We're fine. It's like
Mm.
I'm great.
Mm.
But then I worked through it and I was like, that's not a way to be.
Mm. Yeah, but you should have that right to kind of feel for those emotions. Like,
Oh
it's
yeah.
normal to express yourself in that sort of way to kind of work out what to feel and how to make sense of it all. You know.
Yeah. It's been a battle. Forgiveness is work, and I feel like some people think I just woke up and was like, "We're just gonna write him and forgive him today." Like this has been a, this has been
Yeah.
years long work.
Mm.
It's not a process that you do in a day. You don't just wake up and decide to forgive somebody,
Were you
especially for
were you doing therapy when you're younger, or was this after you started to
no,
read through stuff?
no. It's just I didn't get into therapy till I was an adult. So I've been
Mm.
working through a bunch of stuff, not just this. And when I was talking to my therapist, when I was
Mm.
talking to her about, if we can probably forgive him, and we can move on, she was like, well, maybe that's the first step into forgiving other people. If you can forgive this heinous thing that you're a secondary victim to, then maybe you can forgive people who have made you the primary victim. We can start,
Mm.
like, he'd be the stepping stone
Mm. Mm-hmm.
to forgiving other people who have really put me in harm. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
which will be a lot of work too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That will be a ton of work.
Yeah, because you got two different things. Like, you got the people immediate in your life that you grew up with that you have
Mhm.
different things of, right? But then you also at the same time you have a person that's kind of been unrelated, who caused everything, that's kind of unrelated to
Yes.
the situation, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's two things you have to work through, but it makes sense because that one you kind of detach from, and then if you work through that one easily, then it'll be a lot
Yeah.
easier to work on that. So that makes sense. The
Yeah.
rationale.
And I feel what I've said is there's like redemption and forgiveness, and
Mm.
people can change, but I feel like some people are like, no, they can't, But yeah, people can change. And
Mm.
30 years is a long time.
Mm.
So I think that's a long time to sit and think about what you did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a long, long time.
It's a long time. So I think it's going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you so I think you were saying you spoke to a victim services person or something? Like, you're gonna go meet
Yeah.
him shortly, or what's the process you're gonna do?
So I went to a family reunion for my
Yeah.
father's side. Was it 2 weekends ago now? Yeah. And one of them
Yeah, the nose.
works with.
That's very
He's the
automotive.
director of victim services in North Carolina, which is state right below us. That I should probably get in contact with victim services in Virginia, and that they can set up a VOD, which is Victor Offender Dialogue. And so I got in contact with them, and I was like, I think we'd be a good candidate. I've already initiated conversation because VOD has to be victim initiated. So it's like I already wrote him, he's wrote me, there's good intentions. And they emailed me back and said, yeah, I think you will be a good candidate. Let's set up an interview. Because they have to interview me, they have to interview him, and then they will do a one time only in person meeting.
Got it.
Yeah. So I'm
So it's a
just waiting for that.
one time only meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
One time only. Here, I'll get up and you can. Oh, you're such a ham. A hamster. She never lets one person have the spotlight. She's such a ham. But yeah, so it's gonna be a one time only type deal.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say that probably is the best thing to do, right? Just as a one off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I mean we get video visits. Need a bowl. So I think a one time only in person is good. Just so I can like get his mannerisms and I don't know. I just think you can read people's body language more in person. So I just
Oh,
want to,
absolutely.
and I want to look him in the eye, not like just
Yeah.
on my phone screen. I actually want to look him in the eye,
Mm-hmm.
and so we can have a serious conversation.
Mm. Have you prepared what you're gonna say, or you just think it's just gonna turn up on the day and just go for whatever you
So
feel?
I kind of want to write some stuff down as points, but then again, I kind of just want it to be genuine and just because I was gonna write notes today and I did not. I was like, you know what, we'll just say what we feel and what we think when we feel and think it.
Yeah.
So,
When are you planning to see him, do you think?
well, I have to go through the interview process. He has to go through an interview process, so I'm not sure
Okay.
when we will schedule that. It's more now victim services has to be the one to schedule everything.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's
yeah.
gonna take a while.
Well, I'd love to hear how it goes in the future. Hopefully, I really do hope it goes well, Ariel. And
I do too.
yeah.
And I'm still waiting for a second letter from him because
Okay.
I mailed my second letter out. So I keep telling people we're on letter watch.
Yeah. I'm sure that'll come through soon, and it'll give you a bit
Yeah,
more
and snail mail.
perspective.
It's snail mail, so
Yeah. Um.
gonna take a while.
Um. What do you think about like there's so some of the people out there have like online have said this is such a bad idea and the criticisms about you wanting to do this. Like after speaking to you more, I really get a good perspective and I get to hear your story and the world gets to see your story now so they can understand how it all kind of plays out, right? It isn't just
Yeah.
black and white as in like, you know, this person hurt my family and then, oh no, now I'm going to be like best friends with them or something. Like that's not your
Yeah.
rationale at all. Your rationale is to actually get closure, forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
one of the criticisms that people are saying though is that because you want to have a relationship, like people think the word relationship straight away means like this long ongoing thing. So I wanted to ask you, Ariel, and what you want to sort of tell those people that are kind of saying that this is a bad idea. What do you want to say to them?
Well, first thing is, a lot of them say, why would you want to get to know him? He was like my big bad wolf growing up. He was like the embodiment of evil for me growing up. Like every villain you can think of, that was him. Um, and I didn't want to be afraid of him anymore too, because I was a bit afraid of him. So I wanted to humanize him because I knew, as I grow up, I've made mistakes. Not something so permanent, I haven't killed anybody, I haven't seriously injured anybody, so I thought, well, if I humanize him, then that will help me forgive him. But to humanize him, I also have to get to know him, as a person. And I don't know why she didn't put that back. And I just wanted to make my own assumptions about him. I'm a type of person that I don't listen to rumors. I want to make my own thoughts and opinions about somebody, so that's part of also getting to know him. And then with the relationship, I just kind of wanted to more or less see where it goes. I'm not saying buddy buddy. I'm not saying best friend. I'm not saying I'm going to send him commissary money. It's just more, you have to have some type of acquaintanceship to get to know somebody.
Mm.
You know, you have to,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be letters back and forth. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have a phone call, we're going to have a video visit, like, but there has to be some type of relationship to do that,
Yes.
especially over a period of time. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
you don't just let someone call you on the phone if you don't have some type of relationship with them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
or, you know, you're not going to accept a video visit from somebody or FaceTime if you don't have some type of relationship with them. So that's what I mean. Like it
Mm.
has there has to be something there.
Yeah. Okay. So I think because when people hear the word relationship, Ariel, they think it means like this buddy buddy best friend or like, an
Yeah.
actual like physical or sexual relationship. That's what people think when they hear that idea in their head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's
Oh my God.
totally not what you're thinking at all. You're just saying
Yeah.
what I hear you're saying is that essentially you want to get to know the person so you can make an actual assumption or to get
Yeah.
closure about this thing versus actually getting to like know them and hang out with them and you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I'm not going to hang out with him. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, that's not even possible.
Yeah.
To
You know
really
what I mean?
hang out.
Like you know, not
Yeah.
hang out, but
Yeah. But,
yeah.
and some people are like,
Yeah.
oh, I bet she's going to marry him within a year, which I'm like, that's so weird. Like,
Mm,
that's weird.
mm,
Like they've said some crazy things, and I know like the
really?
internet, you can have your own opinion, but like that seems crazy to me. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah.
marry him. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, he's gonna kill you, and I'm just like, no, he's serving 2 life sentences. He's not getting out. He can't do anything.
Mm.
You know, or I had one person say, you know, I hope he kills your daughter, and then
Oh, why?
see how much you forgive him then. I don't know, because the internet's that's a crazy place,
It is.
and
It
people
is.
just say whatever. So
Yeah. I get the other criticisms, even though they're very mean, but that one's it's a
yeah,
bit wild to kind of say that,
and
you know.
like I haven't seen everything on Twitter because I don't have a Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my friends do, and they were like, don't read what's on Twitter." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay,
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it. I don't want to
Mm, mm.
read what's on Twitter."
I think what some people were saying there was a person, even the situation isn't really like yours at all, Ariel. There was a woman that her parents got killed in the 90s or 2000s,
Hmm.
and then that guy came out of jail, and then this woman had the same approach about being forgiving, and they built this
Hmm.
relationship together that was like a friendship, and then
Yeah.
he ended up hiring her to work at his house, and then
Uh-huh.
he stole from her, and then she fired him, and then he ended up killing her, and then he
Oh,
drowned.
sweet.
So this whole process, he killed her, and then he drowned. He was running away from the police or something. So people were putting
That's
that
crazy.
parallel, but
Yeah.
it's it's not possible because this guy is never going to be able to get out of jail.
Yeah. I don't even think he's not even eligible for geriatric parole when he gets to be an old man because of his crimes.
Yeah.
So no, he's going to live and die in prison.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So I think now that there's like more of you explaining that, I think people when they see this, they'll be like, oh, okay, they actually understand that it's not, it's funny, right? Like people see a story or people see someone say something and they
Hmm.
go, that's the story. This little square, that's the
Yeah.
story. But then if you actually go and speak to the person and uncover and unravel that, you go, well, actually, no, she's been speaking to a therapist. The therapist actually suggests this an idea and working through all these different things. And then when you hear your story about you putting all those puzzle pieces together, right? Like when you saw the case
Yeah.
documents, your whole life. There's three moments I can think of. Your first moment when you're 8 years old and you're told this isn't the
Hmm.
reality you're living in, and you have to put it together, right? And
Yeah.
then you grow up your whole life, and then you hear that you can actually find out more about this from a factual perspective. So you go when you're 22 to open up these case files, and you get this
Yeah.
emotional sensation about your family and your life from your mom's perspective, and then also these facts, so these hard facts and data, which is probably so hard to deal with, right?
Yeah.
And then you go through that in your life and you're working out your identity, but then now you finally have this final piece that can really give you a whole bunch more closure, but not just for your own self and what happened for a situation not there, but in your actual life and the people that raised you as well. So putting it
Yeah.
all together, Ariel, it makes so much more sense, and so much, the picture isn't this anymore. It's like, okay, this is, you can see exactly what it is, Ariel.
Yeah, and I know some people are like, "Oh, she's doing this for attention," and I'm not, because since I've always talked about my parents, even online. I even I share a lot of my life, and I always talk about my parents, because I don't want people to forget that they existed. Because after a certain amount of time, people are dead. People don't even talk about them anymore.
Yeah.
So posting this was just one more thing that I share about my parents. So it wasn't like a grab at attention, and I didn't think it was going to get this big. I honestly did not have any idea that it was going to, have 3 million, views, and then go to Twitter, go to Reddit, have articles written about me, because I have, which is insane to me. Because normally I only get like maybe 100 views, maybe 20 likes. So I was like, no one's actually gonna see this. Um, so it's been wild. But yeah,
Yeah.
like my whole life's been wild actually.
Yeah. Yeah. What made you want to share it online? What was that
Um,
feeling? You're like going, I want people to know about this.
well, to me, I thought it was cool. Um, I see other people did not think it was cool now. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like I thought it was cool. I had originally made it as a Snapchat video for my friends, and some of my friends were like, "Oh, that's awesome," because they know me. Um, and I talk about my parents a lot, and they knew that I was going to write him and stuff. And I was just like, you know what? People are going to appreciate this, and they did not. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And then people wanted to know what happened. So then I was like, well, a lot of people have seen it. Let's just tell them, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And it was more, I also wanted my parents' story out there because they were people, you
Mm.
know. They're
Mm.
not just, names on a headstone.
Mm.
And they're not just their, birth year and death year. They're more than that. So I just kind of
Mm.
wanted to let people know. And the thing is, like, if this would have happened in 2005 instead of 1995, like, everybody would already know. I
Why?
don't see this as, because there's more media coverage when it comes to,
Ah.
as a triple
Uh-huh.
homicide,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Gotcha.
especially if it happened now, there's a triple homicide.
Oh
Yeah, like,
yeah. The whole world would know.
there's more
Yeah.
media coverage. But this happened when
Yeah.
there was just local news stations, local newspapers. That's it.
Mm. Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you want to, share next, Ariel? Like, about this process? Like, what do you feel is important for people to know? Like, or what do you kind of see as the end sort of point of like sharing this story online?
I I want people to like grasp that kindness and forgiveness is possible even for people that others don't think deserve it. That, like, you can do it. It's free to be kind to people. It
Mm.
is work to forgive, but it can help you. And I've gotten some messages from people on TikTok that's like, thank you for sharing this, because here's my similar situation, and if you can do it, I think I can do it too. Or I'll have somebody go, they'll ask me like, oh, I want to look into my brother's murder. Where did you find the case files? And I'll go, oh, they were at my local clerk's office at the courthouse. And they'll go, oh,
Yeah.
thank you. So it's more, I want people to understand that you can be kind to everybody, no matter the
Mm.
situation. You can
Mm-hmm.
show grace and forgiveness, no matter what. And I'm just showing people how I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's really interesting. What sort of stories have people told you, Ariel? What sort of
um,
things?
that there was someone's grandfather um killed a woman and killed somebody else in the family, and they were trying to forgive their grandpa. Um,
Mm.
before he died, or
Mm.
somebody's sister was murdered,
Mm.
or someone's brother was murdered, or their dad, murdered their grandma, like stuff like that. And
Mm.
just like, I'm trying to forgive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've and she went, I didn't think it was possible. But now
Mm-hmm.
seeing you forgive, I think I can, forgive,
Mm.
whoever it is.
Yeah,
Which
because
I like. I like seeing that. And that's like
mm,
that was my whole thing about this as no, because I didn't want to argue back and forth with people like, well, this is what I'm trying to do, and then people go, oh no, um, but seeing people go, you've kind of inspired me. I'm
mm,
glad I get to see you do this, so maybe I can one day do this.
mm.
So it's if
Y-
I can just touch one person, and they can make their life better by forgiving, like it's worth it to me. I'll
yeah.
take all the slack. I don't care.
Yeah, no, no, I get it. I get it now because one of the things we think about with justice and punishment and going through life when someone wrongs you or gets in
Hmm.
jail, right? You think, okay, that person's in jail, they're doing their thing, but yeah, they're being punished for what they did. But
Yeah.
what resolution is that for the people around them apart from just, okay, that person's in jail, they're a bad
Yeah.
person, but you still have emotions, you still live out in the world, you still have trauma, you still have all these
Yeah.
different complex relationships and flow on effects like you've explained, like with your family and everything else. So the jail is great for the punishment, but what about the actual resolution within the other people that are affected by that?
Yeah. And another thing, like, he's, paying for his crimes,
Mm,
and the thing is, like, like, if I wanted to, I could write him and just berate him and call him names, but that's just kicking somebody when they're down. And that's not who I am as a person. Um, I'm a nice person. I don't like being mean to people. Um, so it's just my nature to forgive. It's my nature to
mm,
be nice. And I just don't see any reason to be mean to somebody who's already,
mm.
paying for their crime.
It's interesting as well, Ariel. Like, I know you're an atheist, but this is like a
Yeah.
very Christian, Catholic, Jesus kind of perspective.
Yeah.
Like when Jesus was persecuted, he said, "Slap my cheek," and then slap the other one. Right? That was his kind of
Yeah.
philosophy. Like, as all the religions have their different perspectives, but Jesus' whole perspective was, if someone hurts you, then you should go to them and forgive them, and let them do what they do,
Yeah.
so then they can have a better harmony together. What do you think about that?
I mean, I have heard a lot of people go, "Oh my gosh, you're so full of Christ," and it kind of makes me giggle
Mm,
a little bit. It kind of makes me giggle because I'm just like, but I'm not. Um,
okay.
and then, some
Yeah.
people are just like, I could never,
Never what?
they
What do
like,
you mean?
like they could never write somebody like this and
Oh.
forgive them. And then
Mm.
they'll be like, I'll pray for you. And then I'm just like, you're the Christian here, I'm the atheist. I don't believe in anything. But no, I remember that Bible story, and
Yeah.
I was raised to forgive, turn the
Mm.
other cheek, but I don't think that is swaying what I'm doing.
Mm, 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 mm.
It's just more for me,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, which
It's your
I'm not.
conclusion. It's the
Yeah,
way you've
it's
come to
my
this point, yeah.
yeah. It's more for me, and it's more just how I want to live. Because life may seem long, but it's short, and
Yeah.
especially with my job.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
try
want
to
to
like live a good
yeah.
life. So when I don't want to carry anything to my grave that I don't need to,
Mm.
and especially hate in my heart. Like that's just not
Yeah.
what I want to do.
So that's what I wanted to ask you about is like how did you get into being a mortician? Because a lot of people would be I think I know why, but
Yeah.
it's not the first job a lot of people like to pick,
Oh, I
and
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Why did you do that, Ariel?
I was a real popular kid in school for wanting to do that. I wasn't. I had no, I had no friends. No, I spent a lot of time at the cemetery. Um, visiting my father with my grandma. I mean, we would
Mm,
go every month. You know, and once I figured out, who it was, instead
mm.
of worrying about Jesus's cold feet, um, I
Did
was
you
like,
bring him
well,
socks ever?
yeah. One
You
time I
did.
brought him a scarf too.
Keep
I
him
was like, we
warm.
gotta yeah, because it was December, it got cold, and I was like, we gotta bring him clothes. I don't know what we're gonna do. Um,
Yeah.
but I started to be like, ask questions like, why are they in the ground?
Mm.
You know, and they go, "Oh, they're dead." I'm like, "Well, I know they're dead. You can't live in the ground." Um, and then they're like, "Oh, they have, yeah." And they would be like, "They had a funeral," and I was like, "Well, what's a funeral?" Because it's not like you just, as a kid, you just go to a funeral, you know. And then I just started researching uh funerals. I just didn't know what they were. I wanted to know, like I just had to know. And then I was in EGP, which is the extremely gifted program, when I was in elementary school, and we had to do a huge project, big project. And they gave us a list of topics. And the first topic on that, I mean, I could have picked literally anything, but the first topic on that list was funeral customs around the world. And that's what I
Oh.
picked. Yeah.
How old
I
were
mean,
you?
I'm sixth grade.
Okay.
So I think that's like 11, I think.
11,
And
yeah.
I was already interested in it. You know, I had already been like, I think I want to do this, you know? Um, and I did the project, and I was so fascinated about
Hmm.
how different customs do different things. Or like how, you know, one country uses just coffins, and then some countries use caskets, and then we have all these different things. And I was like, this is what I want to do.
Hmm.
And now it's what I do. And I love it. And it's
Yeah.
kind of, it helps me heal too.
Hmm.
It's one way that I honor my parents because I didn't get to say goodbye. You know, I feel like it's a lifelong
Ah.
grief, you know, because I
Hmm.
never had that closure. And so now I get to give other people that closure. And I think it's very therapeutic, and I'm honored that families trust me to take care of their loved ones, and I get to be, you know, the last person to wash someone's hair, or the last
Hmm.
person to put makeup on and paint an old lady's nails and put her
Hmm.
best dress on and send her out. You know, I
Hmm.
really enjoy that aspect of it. And
Hmm.
to just help people through grief.
Hmm. Yeah, so what I'm hearing is it makes sense now. So because you never really got to say goodbye, you can kind of live that by like helping people get through that process. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, all
Yeah.
I get to do is stand at a grave. That's it.
Hmm.
Someone did in my father's family decide that they were going to take picture of my father in his casket because they were probably like, Ariel would love this one day. So I got to see those.
Oh, you got to see them.
Yes, I
Oh,
got to
that's
see
cool.
them.
That's
And
cool.
I was just like, all right, thanks, whoever took these.
Yeah.
But I didn't get them of my mother, so I don't know how she looked. But
Hmm.
I got her his, and I was like, okay. I
Hmm.
mean, his funeral was at the now my now competitor funeral home. But it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
We're a small town, so we only have two popular funeral homes. So
There's not much competition.
no, but
Like,
you know, I have an older cousin who works with the competitor, and I'm just like every time we see each other, we're just like,
your enemies, huh?
yeah. She's always like, come over to mine. I'm like, no, no thanks. I'll stay
I'm
alive
good on
go
my
home.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we try to coax our family members. I'm like, come on, come to Brooks, let's go. And
Mm,
they're like, no,
mm.
gotta. Yeah.
When you're like going through this process, Ariel, do you just kind of desensitize with it? Because I can't imagine what it's like preparing bodies, like cleaning them up and doing that whole process.
Yeah. A little bit, but then again, I just see them as people. You know, I've always been really confused. I mean, I know there's like this really big fear of death. People don't like to talk about it, think about their own deaths, anything like that. But they're still people. And, you know, I've seen, you know, people die, and while they're in the dying process, people are touching them and rubbing them, and oh my God, I love you so much. And then once they become a corpse, it's hands off. You know? People
Yeah.
don't want to touch them no more because they're dead. They're just like, oh no. But I just see them as a person, and I still talk to them while I'm taking care of them.
Yeah.
You know, I know when I'm fixing, their hair and makeup, I'm just like, oh, you look so handsome today, or you know, you look so
Mm,
gorgeous.
mm,
And it's just that now, like, and sometimes I apologize to them, like especially if it's like a bad death. I'm just like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry, that this happened to you. But yeah, it's just, I don't think I'm desensitized. Well, a little bit actually when I think about it, because when someone tells me somebody dies, I go into work mode instead.
Ah,
Yeah,
got it.
it's
Got it.
just straight work mode. Because my ex-husband's grandma died,
Mm,
I didn't cry at all. I just went straight into work mode. I was like, okay, we'll pick her up. I embalmed her myself. I
mm,
dressed and casketed her myself. I did the arrangement conference myself. Like, I was just straight work mode the entire time.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, it makes sense because it's your work, right? You're going through a
Yeah.
process. It just becomes I do step one, step two, step three, step four, right?
hmm Yeah.
But then it sounds like when you're kind of preparing the makeup or getting them ready, that's when you kind of feel bad for
Yeah.
them.
Or sometimes at the services. Like, I mean, we still cry.
Mm,
We had this one service where he was gonna be something great. He was in college getting his master's. He ran track and, cross country, and he was gonna go to the Olympic trials. I mean, he was gonna be something great.
mm,
And he was cleaning his gun. He had just done a state police firearms certification because he was going to college for law enforcement, getting his
yeah.
master's, and he forgot to discharge a bullet out his pistol, and while he was cleaning his gun, he shot himself in the chest on accident.
Oh
Um,
no.
yeah, and his college came down and like sent buses of students. And his
Mm,
father was a retired New York cop, and
mm,
with those funerals, there's a bagpiper. They have a bagpiper, so we had a bagpiper come, and we're at the graveside, and the bagpiper starts playing Amazing Grace. Um, and all I could see was the sea full of college students.
mm,
I mean, this was like a funeral, like almost 400 people attended.
yeah.
So just a ton of people just standing there at this graveside. And I can just see all these college students just crying, and some of they're grown men, you're in college, you're a man, and just people sobbing. And I
Mm,
cried. I couldn't
mm,
hold it any longer. I
mm,
was like, because I'm like, this sucks.
yeah.
You know.
He's so young.
Yeah, he was,
Mm.
20, 22,
Ah,
I think, and I'm
that's the
only
beginning of life.
28.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's the beginning, you know.
yeah.
I've had to go to 3 funerals in the last 6 months, and I haven't been to a
Oh, I'm
funeral.
sorry.
That's okay. I went to my first kind of funeral when I was like 8 or 9 years old. So my great
Mhm.
grandmother passed away, and then they took me to see her body, and then I'm like, oh yeah, she looks kind of cold. That was all I thought, and I touched her, and that was
Yeah.
it. Like I
Oh,
didn't really like get the concept of death that much, and
yeah.
then his partner passed away when I was like 13, and I understood that a bit more.
Mhm.
And then I've been blessed and lucky that I haven't really had much death in my life, but my I've had a few people die, and then one person that I had on the podcast, he had stage 4 cancer, and he was a partner law firm. He's here in Malaysia,
Mhm.
and he's got two little kids, and one of them's autistic, and he's just an amazing person. And he just spent the rest of like the last 3 or 4 years of his life. He trained jujitsu every day. He was the only person ever to get a black belt in jujitsu whilst undergoing cancer
Cool.
treatment. Yeah, and
Mhm.
he also like won a really high level competition whilst going through chemotherapy and radiation. He had lung cancer and like nose cancer,
Good grief.
and he was so positive as well. Like he was so sick, but he would turn up and train every day. He looked after his kids every day, and he remained positive because he knew that was all he kind of could hold on to and for like
Yeah.
leave throughout his life. And
Mhm.
then one day, I thought he was going to live for still quite a long time, and then one day he just passed away. And I went to his funeral, and I saw his body there, and like I'd interviewed him like a couple months before, and I just looked at
Yeah.
his body, and it's strange. Like you have this, I didn't feel like he's definitely a person. He's still there, like as that person, but
Yeah.
it's hard to come to grips with that person is no longer there. Like I think
Yeah.
with grief and trauma, when someone passes away, it's when well, for me, what the hardest part was when I started to see them again in a video,
Yeah.
because then they're like, oh, that was them, but then now they're not there at all. So
Yeah.
it's something that I've kind of that's the thing I feel like the most of grief, like that gets me the most emotional is when you see people that they can't live the life they weren't supposed to live anymore, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And I think people seeing their loved ones in the casket really helps them to just
Mm,
be like, it finalizes it for
I
them.
think so.
Um, but like even with that young man I was talking about, I'd never met him in my life. The first time
Mm,
I'm seeing him, he's on my prep table, and his track team made a video, and and I'm making sure everything's right in the casket, and we start playing the memorial video before people get there, and he's talking. And I'm just like, I've never met you before, and then I just look and I can see his mannerisms and hear his voice. And and every time we go through that, I'm just like, ooh,
yeah, yeah.
because he was just talking about this race he was about to do like a couple days ago. And I'm just like, ah, crap. Like, you're talking about something you didn't even get to go to
Mhm.
because you're dead now, and it gets a little, I don't know. I don't want to say cringe because it's not cringe. It's just kind of more like a, oh, geez moment.
Why would you say cringe?
Well, I don't like cringe at it, but I'm just kind of, it makes me feel uneasy. I guess that'd be
Oh,
a good
okay,
word.
okay, I
It
understand.
makes
That makes
me
sense.
it makes
Yeah,
me
yeah,
feel uneasy when
yeah,
I'm working on him. I don't know him, and then I can see him talk and hear his voice a couple days before. So I get what you're saying because it's
yeah,
it's just uneasy feeling.
yeah, yeah. It's just because they're just real. They're real again, and then they're
Yeah,
not. Like that's the
yeah,
it's hard to express. It's a hard feeling to express if you had never really gone through that. So it's interesting that
yeah,
you still have the same thing, being around death quite a lot. To see that
yeah.
perspective. Yeah.
And that's one thing with my parents. Like, I've never seen a video of them, so I don't know what they sound like.
Oh, really?
And I don't, yeah, I don't
Mm,
know, what their laugh is like, or, and that's one thing people go, oh, you don't have trauma. I'm like, I have FOMO, you know, I
yeah.
really do. Like, I don't know what their hugs feel like.
No, you definitely have trauma.
Yeah,
That's not
some
correct to
people say,
say that you don't have trauma.
yeah, some people say I don't, that
Yeah.
I've had my older brother say, that I don't, he was just like, there's no way you have trauma. He was like, I don't understand how you think you deserve, what you're feeling. And I'm just like, okay. Um, but it would have been nice, like when I had open heart surgery, to like, I don't know any of my medical history, of my
Yeah.
parents. How am
Yeah.
I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know who had what?
Yeah.
Because, they're dead. They can't answer anything for me,
Mm. Yeah.
or like the time I was born. I don't know that. Or like where they got my name from, really. Like, I don't know how like, I can tell my girls exactly how I picked out their names, but I don't know that. Or I can tell my girls their birth story.
Mm.
I'm never going to get that,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, exactly.
And it sucks that my girls can only see, like, I'll go, all right, let's go see Papa Joe, and to the cemetery we go.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you as well about like your heart. So you like to put it back in perspective, 22 you went through these case files and got this perspective,
Hmm.
right? And then like a
Yeah.
year or two later you started to have heart issues and strokes. Is that right?
So, I was done having kids, but,
Mhm.
how old was I? 20, was it 25 when this happened? 26?
Mhm.
It was 2 years ago, 28. So, yeah, I was 26. Um, and I was done having kids, and I got diagnosed with endometriosis.
Mhm.
Really bad endometriosis. So my gynecologist was like, "Oh, well, we can do a surgery since you're done having kids, and you have endometriosis. We can remove your fallopian tubes and burn your uterus. That will take care of everything." And I went, "Cool, let's do it." And it was an outpatient surgery. And during that surgery, there was a dirty instrument. Strep B entered my bloodstream. It attached to my heart. I got sick like the next day, and I was like, "Hey, I'm sick." And my doctor was like, "Oh, it's probably just a post-op fever." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds, that checks out." And then a couple days go by, maybe 2 days, and I go, "Hey, I'm still sick." And I was like, "I have a horrible fever. Like, I'm sick." And she went, "Oh, well, maybe you had COVID." before you had surgery? And I went, no, because, at that time you had to get a COVID test before you even went into surgery, and it was negative. So I went, no. And she went, well, okay. She went, just, keep hydrated, get some rest. It'll go away. And then a couple more days, and I felt awful. And I went to the ER, and they said, oh, it's probably possible COVID. And I was like, no, because I got negative test results again. And I was like, no, that's not what it is. And they sent me home. And then I got sicker and sicker. And I would try to take, Tylenol or something to get the fever to go down, and it would go down like a degree. Like it'd be like 104, and it would go down to like just 101. Like my fever would not break. And so I went to like a walk-in clinic, and I was like, "Hey, I'm sick." I was like, "They're not listening to me. I need to get something done." And so they said, "You have a what did they say? I had an infection somewhere. They didn't know where." And they did an x-ray, and I had a spleenal infarct, which is just a part of my spleen that was dead.
Oh.
And they gave me a shot of antibiotic. They went, since part of your spleen, have a little bit of your spleen dead, you need to go back to John Michael. They said you need to go back to the ER. So, go back to the ER. They say, we can't find anything. And then they went, but your blood pressure's a little low. I always run a soft blood pressure. And I was like, oh, okay. I go home. With that antibiotic, I felt great the next day. And then it was Friday, June 3rd. I woke up with double vision, and I was having a stroke. And I still got my kid ready for school. I packed her lunch. It was her first field day. She was in preschool. So I put her sunscreen on, her bathing suit on, like all of that. And then I kept then my double vision would go away. It'd come back. So I had 4 strokes that morning.
Oh, no.
And I went to the ER. There was an MRI, and they went, you're too sick for us. So they sent me up to another hospital in the neuro ICU because I had strokes, and it took them a couple days, and they found out I had strep B infective endocarditis. And it grows so fast. The mortality rate for strep B infective endocarditis is very, very high. By the time I got up to this other hospital and they found out what it was, they were like, if this would have gone unchecked, you would have had maybe 5 days.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, the bacteria that was on my heart had grown so much it had eaten away my mitral valve. There was a tail on on this clump of bacteria, and it was flapping like a flag every time my heart beat. So the strokes were from bacteria breaking off. I had spleen damage, liver damage, kidney damage, just from the bacteria hitting it. So I had infarcts everywhere.
Whoa. What's
And
an
now
infarct? Sorry.
an infarct is a little spot on like an organ where it's dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like a little spot of dead
Got
dead
it.
tissue.
Yeah.
And now I have a mechanical valve, and I have to be on blood thinners the rest of my life. Since I've had strokes, I have seizures now from those strokes. So I'm on seizure meds. Probably be on that for the rest of my life, because since it's been 2 years now and they haven't stopped, they don't think they're gonna stop.
Yeah.
But I only have mini seizures.
Okay.
I have mini seizures to match my mini strokes.
Yeah. Can you drive?
Yep.
Okay, that's good.
So I have they call them non-motor focal aware seizures,
Yeah.
which means I don't like fall down and convulse. So that's the
Okay.
non-motor. Focal is just where it is, so it's up here.
Yep.
They're just little seizures because my spots are up there. And then aware means that I am talking the whole time. I know I'm having a seizure. and it passes within a couple minutes.
Okay. Okay.
They're just really annoying. So
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
still. I mean, sometimes I have to sit down and like take a minute.
Yep.
I actually had a seizure before, like 15 minutes before we came on the
Oh,
podcast.
really?
And I just had to sit down for a little bit
Mm.
and wait for it to pass.
Hmm. Well, I'm so sorry that happened to you, Ariel. That's
Yeah,
like
oh,
th-
it happens.
that's it's just ridiculous that like just someone just had like a dirty like cut
Yeah,
like when we're doing a routine operation, which is quite safe, and like I've known people that have gone through that, women have gone through that whole process to
yeah,
end up in the situation that completely affected your life.
yeah. And it was a doctor I'd been seeing for years.
Oh wow.
And she had done other surgeries on me before.
Mm.
So, like, I totally trusted her 100%.
Mm.
And then this is what happened. And the more part that upsets me is if she didn't listen to me.
Yeah, because you said
You
straight
know?
away there was something wrong.
Yeah, and I knew
Mm.
straight away something was wrong. So if it would have been caught earlier, I probably wouldn't have had to have emergency open heart surgery.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I advocated for myself and I bothered her and
Yep.
bothered her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, they didn't listen till I had strokes, though. So,
Mm. Well, it's lucky that you like were still able to get there and go for the whole process, so
yeah.
could get here.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
now I have a medical PTSD therapist, too.
Oh,
Because
really?
I got really scared to go to the hospital and to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Because it was, they didn't listen. And then
Mm-hmm.
it was one day I went to the hospital, and then I didn't see my kids for 3 months after
Mm.
that because
Mm-hmm.
of the open heart surgery. And they said, you can't pick up anything more than a gallon. I couldn't even pick up a gallon of milk, like, because of my chest. So I just had
Mm.
to wait until I healed enough so I could see my kids.
How long were you in
And
hospital for?
I was in the hospital for, was it 2 weeks?
Okay.
And then, yeah. Um, so I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And then, I had to be sent home with a PICC line
Mm-hmm.
so I could give
To
myself
your
my own
chest.
antibiotics. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I had a home health nurse that would come.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it felt like every time I went to the doctor, I got a new medication. I got
Mm.
also a new doctor.
Mm.
Because they would be like, oh, there's something else wrong with you. Here, have another specialist. And I took so many medications. I got tired of it. I have to still go get my blood checked all the time.
Mm.
Yeah, and take
Y-
meds and make sure everything's up to date. And
Yeah. I can't imagine what that's like. I get what you mean about being scared of hospitals, having
yeah,
a fear on them. I was in hospital for 2.5 months when I was like 20, about your age actually, 27 or so.
hmm
And I drank some bad water in Cambodia. I was like on a beach. I was playing beer pong on the
hmm
beach, and then I had like a little ball to like clean the water. I cleaned it was on the beach, so it was sand, like playing beer pong, and then had this
hmm
little ball, and then I cleaned it off in this water. But then we had table water, so it was like it didn't know which cup was which. So I just drank it, and
yeah.
then I was like, oh shit, I drank
Oh
that, and
no.
I didn't think about it. I was like, whatever, and then came back to Australia, and I was so sick. I was violently ill, and I went to the hospital. And this is pre-COVID, so they came in with all these masks and like they thought I had some crazy disease or like, well, you went to Cambodia and now you're this sick. And they did a scan on my stomach. I had all this like, all my stomach and guts were all blocked up, and they thought I had colitis and all this different stuff.
Okay.
But I was okay. I healed from it and whatnot. But you know, being in hospital when you don't know what's going on, and also when you hear like they give you like, oh, it might be this or it might be that, your brain
Yeah.
starts calculating what your life's going to be like in different scenarios. So I can't imagine what that kind of feels like for you. And what I wanted to ask you about is like you have this life where you've had like not knowing your parents and going through this trauma when you're younger, and then you're dealing with death all the time as a mortician, and then you have something happen to you that's kind of like bringing you back to like something quite severe in your life. I wanted to know
Oh yeah.
like what did that kind of go through your mind, and what were you sort of feeling about your life, and what was important to you, Ariel?
Yeah. So I remember I had to make an advance directive before I had open heart surgery, so they knew my wishes. And they said in the case of your passing, which funeral home do you want to pick you up? And I said my job. I was like, call my coworkers. They'll come get me. What are you doing? And it just made me really be reflective on things.
Mm.
And I'm not afraid to die, but you don't want to,
Mm.
because I was like, oh, my girls, and I didn't want to leave my girls, because I didn't want them to be without their biological mom. That would suck.
Yeah.
No, I'm not scooting right now. But it just made me enjoy life more. Like I try to enjoy life more.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, I guess count my blessings, even though I don't know if I'd say I believe in blessings. I don't
Yeah.
know. But yeah, I just want to enjoy life more. I don't want to. It's more I don't want to take things to my grave.
Yeah.
I want to be healed, and I don't want to be weighed down by stuff because there's other traumas I have in my life, um, other really bad things that have happened to me, and my
Mm.
therapist says I'm resilient.
Mm.
So I see it as just enjoying life. Just I
Mm.
don't let something just kind of define me and take a hold of me. I'm not a very woe is me person. So it's just like, okay, this happened. Let's move on.
Mm. Yeah, I was gonna say that, Arrow, like you, from what I see online and what you present when you're doing stuff, you do seem incredibly strong, and it does take a lot of courage to go online and share your story. And you've had some really significant things happen to you, and you're very open about it and clear with
And I
people
keep
to show them, you know.
yeah, and I keep trying to share stuff even with the backlash.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I've said, it's like I'm rowing this boat by myself.
Mm.
So just
Yeah.
like I have that sea of hate, and I'm just like, nope, we're just gonna keep going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
More
you have to be pretty strong to go through that area, and to know that it's not easy to share yourself and be all the way out there. It's also interesting that you kind of have a dark sense of humor as well about everything. You're
I
very like
do.
you got a very dark way of explaining stuff, which I think for people that don't get satire or don't get dark humor, that might be why they lean into attacking you more, because they're like, look
Oh,
at you, you're
definitely.
not right or something. But it's like, no, it's the way that you're processing and handling trauma is to
Oh,
make a joke of it,
definitely.
right?
Some people. I mean, I'd rather laugh than cry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some people have been like, "Oh my gosh, you hate your parents," and I'm like, "No, I don't."
Yeah.
Because that one video I made going, "Oh, you got bang bang choo choo trained," or calling my father a like a crazy man for having, some woman's name tattooed over his heart, or being like, "Mom,
Mm.
you could have swallowed me," So it's just more laugh. But here I am. She didn't. Where was family planning? You're in your 40s. Get it together, sis. Um, but like, it's just. I laugh at everything. It like
Yeah.
anything can be a joke if you think about it.
Mm.
Like I can make a joke about anything, and I
Yeah.
joke about my dead parents a lot because they're not here.
Well, what else can you do? You know,
Exactly. Like,
what else can you say? What else can you do?
yeah. Do I just sit down and cry about it, or do I just keep on going? And
Yeah, yeah.
it's just funny sometimes.
Mm. One thing I
When you
wanted to
think,
ask you about as well, Ariel, is some of the people online were giving you some flack because you are discussing this sort of stuff in front of your parents, so in front of your kids, right? But
yeah,
I can see, if it's a part of your life, why you would really, it's your whole identity really, why you're kind of including them in that. So what do you sort of say to people that are saying that's kind of like the bad thing or wrong thing to do, Ariel?
yeah. Well, see, I'm very open with my kids about things, and I like I said online, I was like, look, if your parent died, wouldn't you tell your kids about your parent?
Mm,
And I mean, I just feel that it's a normal thing,
Mm-hmm.
for them to know who they were,
Mm-hmm.
and me share what I know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and with my job, they go to the funeral home with me sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they go to the funeral home with me sometimes, and so they're around death. They're around dead bodies. It's not weird to them.
Mm.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
they've sat there and just watched me put makeup on somebody. They're
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
afraid of it. Most kids, I know when I was a kid, my first funeral, I was terrified. You couldn't get me up near the casket. You
Mm.
couldn't even drag me up there. I would not do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and with them, it's normal. And especially with the way society is now, like my kids could get shot at school in America. They could go to elementary school, bye mom, love you. That's it. They have active shooter drills now.
Yeah. Wow.
Really? The microwave. But they have active shooter drills. So
Yeah.
if my 8 and 10-year-old can go to school and have active shooter drills, um, why can't they know that their grandparents were shot?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, they weren't there for it.
Mm.
It's just like, hey, this happened.
Yeah. Well, I
And
think
my kids are raised differently because we're death positive.
yeah. I think that like your experience when you were 8 as well would have like a big
Yeah.
part of that, right? Because you
Oh,
had
yeah.
one world and then it was a completely different world after that, you
Yeah.
know?
And I want to be transparent with my kids.
Mm.
I'm not trying to lie to them about anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not giving them gory details about it. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
going, hey, they were shot,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Yeah. Well, it's your identity, Ariel, and I can
Yeah.
see like after kind of explaining it and you showing me and going through everything, like yeah, why you would take that perspective, because for you, like it's important to be honest and transparent, so they actually
Yeah.
know everything, and also for you as well, like it's your identity. Like, how do you
Yeah.
stop? You want to kind of
Being
keep
myself. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. How can you keep that kind of part away from that? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it'd be difficult. It'd be difficult to put it all together. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ariel, thanks so much for your time. What else do you want to let people know just before we go that about what you're doing or anything else that you're working on now? What sort of plans do you have
Um,
with everything
we're
else?
just we're just kind of on letter watch right now.
Okay.
Um, that's just kind of what we're doing. I feel like people forget that I'm a mom.
Yeah.
I'm a mom. I have more in my life than just um,
The internet.
just
Yeah.
just this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I'm a person too, and I haven't. I don't know. Just kill them with kindness. There's nothing that costs to just be kind and nice to people, and forgiveness is out there. I know when we get off live, my daughter loves to do TikTok lives with me.
Okay.
And every time we get off, I say drink your water, take your meds if you need to, if you have them, because I have to take my meds at night. And then she goes, "Don't get attacked by a bear, don't get hit by a car." And then we go and be nice to people, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's her two big things: don't get attacked by a bear, don't
The-
get hit,
Is there a
don't
lot
get
of
a
bear
car.
tax in Virginia?
Yeah, I guess I've never seen anybody get attacked by a bear. Okay, yeah.
uh,
A lot of people hit bears with cars.
oh shit! Black bears or brown?
Yeah, black bears.
Okay. Okay. Now I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, we
Yeah.
got bears. But yeah, it's just it's free to be kind,
Mm.
and it's more like I wish we were more kind to everybody, because then maybe we wouldn't have wars. That's basically it. That's the whole thing I'm pushing. Like, just
Mm-hmm.
be kind, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and
Yeah.
do things that make the world a better place, even if it means like forgiving a murderer.
Mm.
That you don't need to hold hate in your heart, because as Martin Luther King said, hate can't drive out hate, and you know,
Mm.
darkness can't outshine darkness, or something like that. And so
Yeah.
Having
I,
hate in your heart is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. And it's
I
more
th-
like a prison for yourself. So,
yeah, no, it makes sense, Errol. Like when we don't humanize people, they become enemies, you know? Like it's like
yeah,
when people have a war or they hate someone and they hear a bad story about them, but when they become humans and you
yeah,
see what they really are, then you can forgive them and you can actually be actual human being to them. So
yeah,
for you, that I guess the hard part is going to be like when you do meet that the your parents' murderer, like how you humanize them and they become more real, and how you're gonna walk away from that perspective, you know, feeling like how do I put that together and then you know build that relationship that you're trying to talk about as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
definitely a process. We'll see. We'll see how it
let's see.
goes.
Well, hopefully we get an update too, Ariel. We'd love to
Yeah,
know
of
more
course.
about it in the future. Yeah. Okay. Well, Ariel, thank you so much for your time. I really had a pleasure talking to you, and and thank you so much for being so open and transparent with me as well. Like, it's really it's hard to do that and to be so vulnerable and open. So, thank you again. I really appreciate it. All the
Yeah,
best with your health and your kids and everything else. And we're looking forward to the update and how everything else goes. Okay.
of course. Thank you for inviting me.
Ariel's story today was truly incredible. She is incredibly resilient. But what did you think? Do you think it's appropriate that she has a relationship with her parents' killer? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see my podcast with an award winning war journalist, you can do so right here. But before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.